Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how I homeschool multiple kids at multiple grade levels 3 days a week. So today's video, like I said, I'm going to be talking about some tips I have for homeschooling multiple kids at different age levels, at different grade levels, at different skill levels, as well as how I do that all in our 3-day homeschool week. I thought about making separate videos, but then I was just like, you know what? These really go hand in hand together, and so I figured it'd be all in one video. As well as I asked some of my other homeschool mama friends if they would want to participate in making similar videos, so I put together a whole playlist collaboration that is linked down below. So after you watch my video, if you want to see how other homeschool moms balance multiple grades, ages, and different kids, go ahead and watch that playlist down below. So I have a couple tips and tricks to share with you guys. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ashlee. I homeschool 3 kids. I have a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a preschooler. We've been homeschooling for the past 3 years, and I also work full-time. So I do have a little bit different of an element than traditional homeschool moms because I do work 40 hours. I do work remotely from home, but I do have a work schedule. I have tried so many different things to figure out how do I balance different age level kids, different needs, different schedules, and I don't think there's a perfect answer. And I think that maybe what's working for us this year, it wouldn't have worked last year. It may not work next year. And so use this at discretion, that just because I say this is how we do it, I may change it in the future. It may be something that works short term, or it could be something that ends up working long term. So let's first talk about our schedule. We have 3 dedicated days per week to homeschool. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are our homeschool days. Now, my kids do participate in our co-op on Mondays and Fridays, but that's not all the time. It's not all year long matching up with our school year. Normally it's 2 9-week sessions. So it was easier for me to just count those days out when I was trying to plan and just say, you know what, we have these 3 days. What can we do with these 3 days? Now, on that same note, I am a little bit more strict on those 3 days. So I don't like skipping schoolwork on those days. I have a schedule that we get done, and my kids are now realizing, because we only have those 3 days, they are dedicated, they are in good moods getting the work done, because trying to flip-flop schedules around co-ops and activities was just very frustrating when we tried to do that last year. So I do make a planner. I only plan 1 week ahead at a time. This just helps me stay on track, but if I were to plan more than 1 week at a time, I would set up to fail. So I plan, but only 1 week at a time when it gets down to like the details. So I use 3 days for a planner. I use the top section for things that my kids do together, and then the bottom section for individual activities. As much as I try to, you know, formulate the best schedule and make sure everyone's working on school together, that's going to vary for different grade levels. My 4th grader, her work takes longer, where my 2nd grader, her work doesn't take as long. And then obviously my preschooler, he's really not on any specific schedule, but his takes the least amount of time. And so especially with my 4th and 2nd grader, how do I balance it to where my 2nd grader finishes earlier most of the time than my 4th grader? Well, there's a couple ways that you can handle that. In my homeschool, my 2nd grader is actually the most motivated to do school. So if she finishes something early, her mindset is, what else can I do that's school related? Which is a really great mentality to have. I wouldn't say my 4th grader would have that mentality if she was the one finishing early. But for my 2nd grader, I don't want her to get too ahead in, you know, different curriculum or lessons. And so something that we use, and I've talked about it before, is Night Zookeeper. I'm going to go a little bit more in detail and show you guys actually some of the screenshots and my daughter using Night Zookeeper in just a little bit. But I did want to thank them for sponsoring this video, because that is one of the main tools that I use to kind of balance out older kids and younger kids and do it in an educational and fun way that my kids actually enjoy. They love using Night Zookeeper, so I will show you more on that in just a little bit. So like I said, it's kind of finding that balance, because if my fourth grader was sitting there doing a long math assignment and my second grader is done for school, but she's playing a game that maybe my fourth grader really likes to play with her, that is where you start having, you know, some motivation lost from your older kids. And so as much as wouldn't just give extra busy work, you do need to find something that balances out, and that's with like an educational app like Night Zookeeper. So that is my one piece of advice, is really trying to balance things out to where, you know, only one kid is upstairs taking a hour-long math test and all your other kids are having a Valentine's party downstairs. That is something that I would maybe plan to not have happen, because that's just probably not going to create the best atmosphere. What's really been working for us is doing our family subjects together. And now that is my second tip. Now I'm going to lose count of how many tips I'm giving, because that's not, I didn't really mean to count them out. But another tip is using curriculum or unit studies that is meant to be used with multiple ages. A curriculum that we started using this year is Gather Round, and I will be 100% honest, this curriculum would not have worked for us our first year of homeschooling. We were not able to do work together as a family. It just didn't work. We needed separation. We needed their own curriculums, their own time slots. But now we are gravitating more towards unit studies and curriculum that we can do together, because when you can and it's successful to homeschool multiple age grades and levels together, that's going to save you time as the parent. It's going to save your kids time. And then it gives them that, you know, sibling bonding, even if they don't think it's bonding, to work together, to discuss things together, to do activities together. So I really like Gather Round because they have the different age levels. So I could even get my preschooler involved. I can get my second grader, my fourth grader. I mean, it goes from preschoolish, you know, before they can read, all the way up to high school. So that is a curriculum that would work in that scenario where all of you can do it together. There's other curriculum that we use. Maybe it's not so much where it spans all grade levels, but curriculum like Bookshark, like Guest Hollow, they have packages that range over age levels. So for example, Bookshark, you can use, we'll say level C, for ages 8 to 10. Now I don't know if I'm quoting the right age levels and level, but if you have kids that are close enough in age, so like my second and fourth grader, they're 8 and 10, they only are 2 years apart. You can find curriculums that span those age levels. And obviously it depends on your kids too, right? Like, are they at age level, grade level, whatever, you know, that may mean to you. Are they advanced? Are they behind? And you can kind of work that in. Our Guest Hollow curriculum is from 2nd to 6th grade, right? So that's another one that spans a lot. Our IEW is from 3rd to 5th grade, so I kind of just adapt it. That's my next thing. I've bought unit studies from companies like Moving Beyond the Page, where it's more probably on grade level for my second grader, but I can adapt it. I can go out to other resources and find things to go a little bit more in depth for my fourth grader. So really using your curriculum, if you want to do more things together across multiple age levels, definitely research curriculum that you can do that for. Now, when we talk about younger kids, like preschoolers, my son was obviously 2 to 3 when I first started homeschooling my older daughters. So I've never had like an infant and been homeschooling through that. And so that is maybe someone else in the playlist can speak to. But for him, he just likes sitting when we do our read alouds. And so he can listen. He likes when my kids watch a movie that relates to their unit studies or schoolwork in crafts. You know, sometimes my daughters are working on a project. It's very easy for me to go find a coloring page or worksheet or Play-Doh that somewhat kind of goes along with it, so he feels like he's a part of it, but it doesn't take much prep on my end. So if you're wanting to do schoolwork together with all your age levels, those are my recommendations. Find curriculum that works in the way you want it to. Be okay with making adaptations. It's okay to use a higher level curriculum or a lower level curriculum. You don't have to use curriculum that matches the grade your kids are at. You can totally adapt it. There's some first grade, second grade curriculum that I love the way it's laid out, and I just build on it for older grades. Same for preschool, pre-K, kindergarten. Just find them something similar that they feel like they're a part of it, but you know, it's not too intense for them either. Now, when we talk about individual independent type studies, and independent to me doesn't necessarily mean my kids doing it 100% on their own, but independent from each other. We're not all doing it together. So subjects like math, I honestly feel like math has to be one of those individual subjects. But again, how do I help multiple kids with math? I have a preschooler who's learning math a certain way, I have a second grader who's learning math, and I have a fourth grader. All three of my kids use a different math curriculum. My preschooler, his lessons are obviously the shortest, but they take my time the most because it's all me teaching him everything. He can't read, he has no idea, so that takes the most of my effort is his math lessons. And then my second grader, I normally have to go over the lesson with her, but then she has some independent activities she does, so hers is kind of in the middle. And then my fourth grader, I chose a curriculum for her that is pretty much 100% independent unless I need to help her with some questions. So she watches video lessons, she answers everything, it's all graded online, and the only thing she needs help with is if she cannot solve a problem, that's when her and I work through it together. So that was also a decision I had to make. Did I want 3 curriculums where I was the main person teaching all the lessons, doing all the review work? That would take a lot of time that I don't have because I work, because I have multiple kids, and we only have 3 school days. So I need to be as efficient as possible. Our lessons need to flow. We need to know how these lessons are going to go. And we get a math lesson done every one of our school days because we just know how it's going to work. Another thing that they do independent that I think really has to be on their age level is handwriting practice. Obviously, my preschooler is learning how to write letters. That's a different part of learning to write. My second grader is perfecting her print and starting a very, very, very beginning of cursive, where my fourth grader is on her 3rd unit of learning cursive, and so she's now just learning how to just write herself in cursive, just writing her papers in cursive. So something like that, yes, there's curriculum books for, but then how can I incorporate that into other lessons? So when we're doing our gather round lessons and they ask for them to do journal entries, well, my second grader is directed to write in her best print, and that will count as her handwriting work. Whereas my fourth grader, she needs to write in cursive. So those small adaptations, those are independent from each other, but I'm kind of balancing them all in together. The last subject that my kids do independent of each other is foreign language, and that's because they're at different levels and they're learning different languages, so it wouldn't work them doing it together. That was a decision I let them make. I knew I wanted them to learn a foreign language. However, I wanted them to choose their own foreign language. So my oldest daughter does American Sign Language and my second grader does Spanish. And so they use, again, separate curriculums for that. Thankfully, again, those are both curriculums I don't have to teach. Both of them have video lessons, activity books. I'm just there for support. But my older daughter's is a lot more intense. She's actually taking a middle school course, even though she's in 4th grade, because she's been learning sign language for almost 2 years now. That was kind of the next step for her. So her coursework is pretty advanced, and she has a weekly homework assignment where I have to videotape her to turn in to her teacher with saying certain things in sign language. And so that is something that I need to dedicate time to. And while that's happening, my other kids need something educational to do, because again, I don't want them having a party when my oldest is supposed to be focusing on that subject. So that is where I really love Night Zookeeper. It keeps us kind of balanced. It's helps my second grader have something to do because she wants something extra to do. I can use it as kind of reinforcement tools, because if you don't know about Night Zookeeper, they can be used technically as a full language arts curriculum. It teaches writing, it teaches grammar, it teaches spelling, vocabulary. So many things are covered, and you can adjust to the age levels of your kids. I believe it's for ages 6 to 12. So 2 of my kids fit in that. I cannot wait till my preschooler's old enough to start using it because he likes learning games. Right now he's using reading aches, and so I can't wait to see that next step until once he's ready for Night Zookeeper. So my second grader will log on to Night Zookeeper. She will, start her lessons, whether it be writing, creating animals, or doing different games, but they're learning games. So she just got bumped up to the 3rd grade level because I felt like the second one was a little bit too easy for her. And so it slowed her down a little bit, but she's having fun learning spelling, vocabulary, like I said, so many different language arts skills. And what's really cool is I see those feed into our writing curriculum, our grammar curriculum that we're doing all together. So this is her time to kind of get those individual refreshers or new concepts for her because we are doing kind of a joint language arts unit study together. So Night Zookeeper is something that we have just always used since we started homeschooling. I think maybe 1 or 2 months in is when I first heard about it, and it's just something that I've always kept. Now, it's not something that I schedule because my kids asked to do it. So it's actually pretty easy for me because it's screen time that I would rather them be doing is on Night Zookeeper. It has different progress reports, so I can go in and kind of see what they're learning. If maybe they're having issues, I can read their writing. And my other favorite thing is when they submit writing, they actually get feedback from someone at Night Zookeeper. They will say, hey, maybe you should have said this, or this word should be capitalized. So it's someone else reinforcing rules that are taught that I go over in different lessons, and I just really, really like the program. And when you have multiple kids, sometimes anytime you hear a software program, you're like, great, I have to pay for it 3 times. Well, Night Zookeeper is one of those companies that offers a multi-student discount because they know in the homeschool community that's common. You normally have multiple kid homeschool. So they offer obviously a package for a single child or a discount for multiple kids, as well as I do have a discount link down below. All you need is to click on the link. There's no code you need to remember. You get 50% off and a free trial if you've never tried it before. So use that link down below, try it out, use it as you're trying to navigate with multiple age levels, multiple kids that have maybe a little bit more free time than others, and it will really not only help you with that, but then enhance their overall language arts and writing skills. It's an engaging, fun writing program. I've done way detailed videos on it, so I will link some of those down below if you're just curious of more of how the program works. If you're curious on anything I talked about today, or if you want me to go in more detail on our 3-day homeschool week, the curriculum we use, Night Zookeeper, leave those down below in the comments. Don't forget, I asked some of my homeschool mom friends to join in on this collaboration. So if you're looking for even more ideas on how to balance multiple kids, multiple grade levels, check out the playlist link down below. And don't forget, 50% off Night Zookeeper. That link is also down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.